Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a story you probably thought you already knew. The true, highly collaborative history behind one of humanity's most fundamental inventions, the light bulb. You know, it's incredibly easy to just take for granted that we can completely banish the dark with the literal flick of a switch. But the journey to get that light into your room, it was anything but simple.
So what if I told you the light bulb wasn't just some sudden, dramatic eureka moment by a lone genius tinkering in a lab? We so often hear that simplified version of history. But the reality? It's much more like a technological relay race, one that spans decades of intense experiments, really frustrating failures, and massive, game-changing breakthroughs by a global community of scientists.
Section 1. The Pre-Electric Dark Ages, when fire was the only light. To really get why this matters, I want you to imagine your city completely devoid of electricity. During the pre-electric era, people relied entirely on fire. We're talking candles, oil, and gas lamps, and honestly, they were terrible. They produced toxic smoke, they were expensive, and they were massive fire hazards. When we finally jumped to the early electric era with electric arc lamps, we solved the darkness problem, sure, but we basically created a new one. They were blindingly bright, and they consumed so much power they just absolutely were not practical for your average living room.
Section 2. The first electric sparks, Humphrey Davy's arc lamp.
So, the very first runner in our technological relay race is the scientist Humphrey Davy. Back in 1802, he produced the first electric sparks of the modern age. He proved definitively that electricity could actually produce light, and that was a massive breakthrough. But his arc lamp burned through energy way too fast. We had the spark, but we didn't have the stamina.
Section 3. The practicality race, the quest for a lasting glow.
That fatal flaw, the massive power drain, sparked a wild race in the 19th century. Over in Britain around 1860, Joseph Swan developed an early incandescent lamp using a carbon filament. He was incredibly close. But simultaneously, over in America, Thomas Edison and his team were refining that exact same design. By 1879, Edison finally cracked the code, creating a truly practical incandescent bulb that lasted far, far longer than any previous version. But you know, here's what's absolutely fascinating. Edison's true genius wasn't just inventing a slightly better bulb. His real achievement? He invented the entire electrical system that went with it. Think about it. A light bulb is completely useless without wires, sockets, switches, and a power grid. Edison designed the whole shebang, the infrastructure that allowed this tech to safely spread across the globe.
Section 4. The Quest for Efficiency, Upgrading the Filament.
Okay, so the bulb is finally in homes, right? But now we have a totally new headache: longevity. Those early carbon filaments used by Swan and Edison were really fragile. So rolling into the 1900s, inventors replaced those threads with tungsten. Tungsten is this remarkably durable metal that can withstand blistering temperatures without melting. It burned brighter, it lasted longer, and it became the absolute standard for the 20th century.
And as the global population absolutely exploded, energy consumption became a huge economic concern. So the baton gets passed again. The 1930s brought us fluorescent lamps, which used far less electricity and pretty quickly took over large spaces like schools and factories. Then the 1950s introduced halogen bulbs, which offered high efficiency while keeping that warm, familiar glow we all liked in our living rooms.
Section 5. The Modern Era, the LED Revolution.
Every single one of those earlier steps was leading up to the most significant transformation in lighting history, the one that solved our energy problem once and for all. The LED, or light-emitting diode. For decades, LEDs were just those tiny, annoying red indicator lights on your VCR, but massive advances in semiconductor tech finally made them powerful enough for everyday use. We quite literally went from glowing dots to eliminating entire stadiums.
The LED basically won the lighting race, hands down, and it's super easy to see why. Modern LEDs use a mere fraction of the energy of their predecessors, and they produce almost no wasted heat. But the craziest part? An LED can last for tens of thousands of hours. You could install one today and theoretically not have to change it for decades.
To really wrap our heads around just how many brilliant minds contributed to the light shining in your room right now, we just have to step back and look at the sheer scale of these historical milestones.
When you look back over the last 2 centuries, it's just this perfect chain of continuous innovation. Every single generation of lighting, from those power-hungry arcs and fragile carbon filaments to durable tungsten, efficient fluorescence, and finally our modern LEDs, each one solved a critical problem that the previous generation just couldn't handle. It is a 200-year story of incredible collaborative progress.
So, the very next time you casually flip a switch to read a book or light up your kitchen, remember that you are activating over 2 centuries of dedicated scientific teamwork. You are literally turning on history, which leaves us with one final, exciting thought. Considering the massive hidden histories behind the everyday objects around us, what invention should we explore next?